To prepare for a lower body workout, squats, deadlifts, whatever kind of variations you have therein, we want to have our general warm-up. Make sure that the muscles, and especially the hip and knees and ankles, that they're all kind of ready to do their job. With our tendency in our society to be always seated, whether it's at our desk, in our cars, we get a little tight coming forward this way, and also our glutes tend to not fire maybe as well as they should. So I like to do some exercises to warm up the hips, get loose, and also turn on the right muscles on the back side to help us do our exercises properly. So what I like to do first is just to get the hips moving and get the upper glutes kind of woken up. So make sure I'm in the camera angle. Come back here. I want to get into a 4-point stance. Lock the upper back in nice and tight. We're trying to get stable again. And I want to just do hip circles. So draw back, squeeze, draw back and squeeze the glutes. And then draw a big circle. So we're just moving through the hips, range of motion. We'll knock out 10 of those. Okay. Get the other side. Nice big circles. If I have a pencil on the end of my knee, the world is my piece of paper. I want the biggest circle I can. Okay. Then we just do the opposite pattern. 10 of those. The opposite pattern is the knee comes forward and then back out and around. A lot of times, as you can see, it's a little more awkward in the movement to get back and around. After that one, I like to do just a standard fire hydrant. Make sure we're staying tight. Right out to the side. So it's just external rotation of the hip. What we don't want to see is your hip flexor trying to jump in and help you. It shouldn't be pulling forward, be going out to the side. So I like to draw it back a little bit and then stay back there. Don't let it come forward. That's your hip flexor trying to help you out, and we don't want its help in this. So draw it back just a little, and then focus on that external, that opening pattern. Okay? I then want to make sure that my hip flexor isn't so tight that it's going to make problems when I try and fully extend. So I'm going to do standard kneeling hip flexor stretch. While I'm doing that, I want to start practicing my breathing and bracing. So holding this position, I'm then going to breathe into my belly, brace down hard around it, making sure that I have the front, the sides, the obliques, and even my low back expanding outward. We're using this time of a static stretch right in there in the hip to make sure it's nice and loose to practice a skill we're going to need when it's time to squat or deadlift. Breathe in to the belly, not up into the lungs. We're trying to breathe in here, brace down hard around it. I want the obliques tight all the way through, all the way around. If I had a belt on, I'd be pushing out against that belt. Without the belt, I'm just doing it inside me. Brace down hard, make the lats part of that brace nice and solid, getting a good stretch. Okay? Do that a couple times, however much you need. If you need, maybe it's not an issue, just depending on how you are. You can skip that part. I like to make sure that I'm going to get some external rotation action. So, you can use a band. I like the slingshot, it works really well. Slightly above, we do a couple things with it. Sitting back into the hips just a bit. Don't drift into your toes. We sit back into the hips and we do big, controlled with the back foot. Don't let the band yank it in. Making sure that we have those knees pushed out. Not pushed out into some crazy pattern where the feet are rolling out, just pushed out so they're over the toes, good angles, everything's in line. Big step, stretching. We don't let the back foot shoot with the band yanking it. We're going to control that pattern. Okay, we also can then do another one I like, monster walks, expanding this band out. Very robotic movements, keeping those glutes tight. You're going to feel it burn right back in here. It's not glute max, it's the medius and minimus that are responsible for preventing the knees collapsing. If we're going to squat and this happens, we overemphasize the opposite pattern to get it strong and stable, and so that when it is time, this is the next one, to squat, we keep those knees pushed out. Not overly pushed out, just pushed out so that they're not collapsing inward and we're falling apart at the knees. So nice, solid squatting action. Even if I'm going to deadlift next, I like to get this action going. Sitting back into the hips, we have good balance, we're stable, driving through the hips as well. Another one I like to add in there is the DNS squat, dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. How do we tie in the upper body? You can't have everything solid from the waist down, grab the bar, and let it collapse up top. So this is one I like. Retracting and depressing the scapula, just like you would if you were holding the bar nice and tight. So I'm gonna suck them down, hold them back, knock out a good squat. Breathing into the belly, bracing hard around it, slight external rotation from the hips to keep the knees pushed out, locking everything down up top. Really gets a good pattern for when we carry it over into the squat or into the deadlift. I would then look at specific warm-ups. If I'm gonna squat, let's start doing some more squat patterns. I'd put my regular shoes on, throw my sleeves if that's something you use. If I was gonna deadlift, put a different pair of shoes on than I squat in, and I would start doing specific deadlift patterns, making sure that the hips are going to finish through, still breathing and bracing. That's a huge piece that we have to keep a part of it. Put it in your warm-up. Put that skill in your warm-up. By the time you get to the bar or the bar on the ground, it's already becoming a habit. It's going to become reflexive. You do it all the time. We're safe.